family.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
I have Karen
Have
back in the
Karen
building with
back in the
me,
building with me,
and she is
and
going to
she
pick
is
up
going to pick
where
up
she left
where
off
she left
at
off at
regarding
regarding
her marriage
her
to
marriage
her ex
to
husband.
her ex-husband.
The
The
name of
name
our
of our
conversation is
conversation is
What
what
Happens When
happens when
Misrepresentative Lead.
misrepresentative lead.
As you guys know, my name is
As you guys
Carmen.
know,
I
my
am
name
your
is
host
Carmen. I'm your
and
host,
the founder of the
and the
podcast
founder of the
entitled I'm My
podcast
Sister's
entitled I'm My
Keeper.
Sister's Keeper.
We are super
We are
excited
super
to
excited
continue
to
part
continue
two of
part
this
two of
three-part
this three-part
episode with
episode with
the one,
the
the
one,
only,
the only,
the soldier,
the soldier,
Miss Karen.
Miss
Karen,
Karen.
the floor is
Karen,
all
the floor is
yours.
all yours. Oh, thank you, sweetie. Thank you. Yeah, been through a lot of wars. So, anyway, well, if anybody, I'm assuming everybody heard episode number one. And so we come off of the fact of me finding out about the first affair, actually him telling me about the first affair, and me dealing with the realization that we've now been married for just over 6 months, and my new husband has had an affair with a woman that he said that was just some woman he met in a hotel. I later on find out that the woman was a coworker that I knew and that he had introduced me to, and which puts a different layer of humiliation on everything, because it's one thing if you think your husband has an affair and he had it with a woman that you don't know, but when you can actually put a face to a name, to a person that you've smiled, that you've broken bread with, that you've had dinner with, that you've laughed with, it makes it just so much worse. And how I found out about her was there was a business trip, and he had gone on this business trip to the Dominican Republic, and she worked in his office. And as I was packing up his stuff from Puerto Rico, from the Puerto Rico office, and from the apartment that he stayed in, I saw a picture of him and her, and they looked like they were at a resort. They were walking. It was nothing. If you looked at the picture, you would think, "What the hell are you talking about?" It was just a man in a suit and a woman in business clothes. He was wearing a sombrero. She's carrying some maracas. They're smiling for the picture and posing. But something in the picture, and I cannot say what it was, looked strange. It looked familiar. It looked intimate, even though it wasn't intimate. So, because I knew her, I called her and I said to her, "Hey, how are you doing? How's everything going?" Meanwhile, my heart's beating a mile a minute, and I'm thinking she's going to know that I'm calling. She's going to know that I'm, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to get in trouble, because I was thinking to myself, my ex husband is thinking, well, we've moved past the affair, but now she's calling the woman. So I ask her, so, hey, how's everything going? And she's like, oh, there's so much to do. The office has been so busy. And I said to her, well, you know what? The fact that you got away and you were able to go to the Dominican Republic, that must have been a really nice break for you. And she was like, oh, me? Oh, I never went. Only the upper management went to the Dominican Republic. And right there, I knew she was the one. Which then I confronted my husband by phone and told him I knew it was up. And a lot of times, I know there were questions in the last meeting that women had asked me, should I confront my husband? And I had said, yes, of course, um, for varying reasons. I believe one lady had mentioned about an STD, and I'd given her my advice on that, because if you know your husband's has an STD, he's going to wonder why you're not having sex with him. So you're going to have to tell him, I got an STD from you. Um, so I had told him about, I confronted him because I felt, number one, you've lied to me, you've deceived me. So now you've told me it was just some woman. Now you're saying, now I'm finding out exactly who it is. And really that should have been a sign to me at that moment that he really did not have the remorse that a husband really should have had, because of the fact that he was ready to hide it and maybe keep her on as a relationship for the future usage. Maybe. I don't really know. But I confronted him. And a lot of times it's very hard for women to choose when to confront, women and men, not just women, but women and men, when you find that you have a cheating spouse. It's very hard, and it's something that you really have to judge the situation, because not everybody has the same situation. And for some people, it could be a very dangerous situation, you confronting someone. But for your own self to know the truth, and for them to know that you know the truth, it's really important. After that, we went home. He flew back to New York, and we carried on with our lives. I went to therapy. There was he refused to go to therapy with me because he felt that therapy was not needed. And we continued on. I really was, by me going to therapy, and I remember the therapist. I only went one time to him. And I went one time because that one visit, I was so incensed and I was so angry with his analysis of my situation that I just said, forget it. I'm not going back to this guy ever again. And he said to me that after he heard my story, heard everything, he said, well, why are you here? I say, just dump him. But he said, just dump him, period. That's it. It's done. And I did not listen to his advice, because I really felt that he was worth a second chance. He was worth a second chance. The relationship was worth a second chance. And for some reason, even though he had done something extremely devastating to me, I felt like I had to defend him for some crazy reason. I defended him, which sounds crazy, right, Carla? When you think about it, being confronted with it and somebody saying, well, forget it. Like, you just...
I think that marriage is completely, well, I know that marriage is completely different from having a boyfriend or a girlfriend.
Right.
And so it's unfortunate when you are in love or married to someone who doesn't show you the same level of love and respect back. And it causes so much extra tension and grief, because in life you have to maneuver through so many different situations.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't
You're
have
right.
peace at home, then when do you get peace? And why should the person that you say you love, why have they put you in a predicament to where you have to go through a hell's life because they
Mm-hmm.
can't control their urges? It's really unacceptable, to be honest with you. It's really
It,
unacceptable because when you say I do, um, I don't think you necessarily anticipate all of the extras. I know that people are married for years, and those who have been married for a really long time have stories to tell. But I still think in any relationship, there's a line that you're going to cross.
mm-hmm.
And once that line is crossed, then really tough decisions have to be made because if you have my back, then you're not going to disrespect me. If you have
Right.
my back, then the same level of loyalty I show you, you're going to show me. And in this day and age of sexually transmitted diseases that is
Mm-hmm.
talking about death, you are completely out of order to be a married
Right.
man or a married woman and go have sex with someone. Some of them say it's random situations. Some
Right.
believe they're not, but it is
Right.
simply a lack of respect for your partner to
Mm-hmm.
have unprotected sex. Now, hold on, Van. Let me just be real with you and nice with you. I don't condone adultery. I don't
Right.
condone it at all. But for folks that have gone out and committed the act of, you would think that these folks would wear a condom because if I'm sleeping with someone outside of my household
Mm-hmm.
and I never said I do to them, but I said I
Yep.
do to the person on the opposite side of the door, and I take a chance in sleeping with this person outside in the street
Right.
and assuming that they look good just because they just
Right.
feel like they don't have anything, and I
Mm-hmm.
can go home and sleep with my husband or my wife, not knowing what you pick up on the street. I'm blown away over that, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah. I mean,
I'm absolutely blown away.
it is a it's a stunner because I think that he actually mo- I would think that all of the women that he was intimate with, he did not use protection. And not only the fact of you have a chance of bringing a child into this world,
Oh,
you can forget having sexual, you can have a child, you can get somebody pregnant.
yes,
I mean, and that's a whole nother series of complication.
absolutely.
Um, and then on top of it, you can get your spouse sick. It's just, it's really,
It's
it's breathtaking. It's breathtaking. But,
you
you
have
know,
a spouse who is really proud to say they're your husband or they're your
mhm,
wife, and this person is doing what they're supposed to do to make a happy household, right?
mhm, mhm,
For you to leave and step outside of that and sleep with someone and create a child or bring a sexually transmitted disease back to that
mhm,
person, I don't really
mhm.
know what can come back from that. I'm sure that lots of people do, but in that comment, there are lots of people who do not. And
Oh,
so
yes.
for me,
Yes.
you need to think twice and act once because uh, I would never gamble. And people who know me know I love the slot machines, okay? But when sitting down in the slot machines, I know when enough is
Right.
enough, okay?
Right. You know when to
You
push
have to
away from
know
the table.
when enough is enough. You have to know when to
Mhm.
fold them, when to hold them, and when to walk away. And
Right.
shame is being an adult, having someone that you love and they love you back. And we know that every situation is a situation. We know that some people are married and not happy. We're not talking about those folks right now. We're talking about people that are genuinely supposed to be happy in their marriages.
Right.
Shame on you for walking outside your doorstep and bringing something back to your spouse. Shame on you.
Mhm.
That's horrible.
There's a special place for them. Um, and shortly after we reconciled, I would say it was maybe around 2 or 3 months after we reconciled, he starts to talk about having children. And he says to me, Karen, how about you stop taking the pill? And I was like, well, in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to do that because I don't know where this is going, because I didn't know where it was going. And I had already brought into the relationship a child, my own child. And for me, I felt that it was really, really important to me more than anything else. And really, this was the thing that kept me in the marriage the longest, was the fact that I did not grow up with my father. I was raised by a single mother. I was the only child. I had that hole in my heart as a little girl. And I had a previous relationship where I had a daughter, and through circumstances, her father wasn't in her life. And I didn't want that to be my legacy. I didn't want that to be my legacy. So I was going to fight for my marriage, because in my mind, and I don't know if it's a Caribbean thing, and those of you that are out there that are from Caribbean culture, culturally, there has been a thing where men go about and have other women, and they might have children with other women, but they stay with their wife. They stay with number one. I don't think it's not healthy, but because the fact of I grew up in an environment where there was stability between my uncles, my aunts, my granduncles, my grandaunties, and everybody was a big family. And they were married for years, 20, 10, 20, 30 years, 50 years. I've got a relative that I think they've had their 60th wedding anniversary. But for her to get to the 60th wedding anniversary, she had to walk through some hell to get there. I thought, okay, Karen, I'm going to have to walk through some hell too, but I'm going to get there in the end. Because if it happened to my relative and it happened for them, it's going to work for me. So I ended up having my son, a beautiful child we had together. And within by the time the baby was 9 months old, he somehow coincidentally met up, or somehow an ex-girlfriend, his first girlfriend, found him on Facebook or something and looked him up, and somehow he was going to meet her. And when you have a spouse that cheats on you the first time, you never really forget the signs. It's like driving to somebody's house for the very first time and you see, oh, there's a grocery store over there, a little grocery store over there. There's a ShopRite. Oh, they got a Walgreens over there. Okay, I'm getting close. Okay, there's a mailbox right there, and there's it's only 3 blocks down from here. Oh, there's a church. Yep, I know. Yep, gonna make the left right there. You know the signs. You know the signs. The first time it happened to me, I never knew the signs because the first time it happened to me, I was like, yeah, he's in Puerto Rico, but I trust him and everything. The second time it happened to me, I was like, something's going on here. I don't know what, but something's going on.
Okay, hold that thought. We have a message here from Roxanne. Who just, hey, Roxanne.
Hey,
Said
Roxanne.
not only do Caribbean men like to have outside
Mm-hmm.
children and then go home to their wives. Let's just say it's a man issue.
Oh, yeah. I can only speak from the context of my upbringing.
Yeah.
Um, Unfortunately, through colonization, the breakdown of colonized countries, the culture has created an environment where the man would be the breeder. And I'm not sure if it's just I don't know if this happens with Asian people. I don't know if it happens with Europeans, people that are traditionally European. I don't know. All I know is that it happens in Latin America, happens in South America, happens in the Caribbean. Maybe it happens traditionally in Africa. I don't know. I know it happens here in America, and it's heartbreaking because those children are children like me that grow up with a hole in their heart. And I mean, around a month and a half ago, I just found my brother and sister. Imagine that.
Yeah, that's
I grew up, yeah, I got a lot of stories to tell, ladies, and gentlemen. So, you know, we just survive. We survive. Women, we survive. I'm sure that there are men out there that go through the same thing. But I don't know if it's as prevalent with men as it is a men going through dealing with an adulterous woman as prevalently as a woman dealing with an adulterous man and a cyclical adulterer. Mine was a cyclical adulterer. He would keep it together just enough to keep me. Just enough to keep me. And then once he was able to turn me away, keep me, and once I started to actually believe that we're on the right path, and once I started to build up my trust again, he would basically shatter me. This cycle went on, and as I said, the second woman, how I found out about her is that he had this diary that he was writing in, his journal. I suppose it was when, journaling first came out in the 80s or the 90s, I think the 90s, where people were walking around with those leather binders and wanted to journal their thoughts. And he had this journal, and it was like kind of top secret. And he even took the journal to work with him, where he would write in the journal. And one day he went to go, our son would stay at my mother-in-law's in the day, and he left his briefcase by the front door and went to go pick up the baby. So, because I know something's not right, because I started to get this, um, well, now I know what it is. It was a panic attack. But I started to get this vibration in my stomach where my stomach muscles would tighten up and I would shake when things were not right. And so that was kind of like one of the signs for me, was when I was starting to feel that something wasn't right. I remember stepping and being so fearful of going into that briefcase for varying reasons. In the beginning of the relationship, we were peers, we were equals. But when I took him back the first time, somehow he became over me, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
He ruled over me. And just the thought of me going into his private briefcase to get that book, and it's funny, I still feel it right now, was terrifying. I remember getting the book and opening it. It was one of those leather bound ones, brown leather with a tab. And reading in the book, I just opened it up on a random page. And the page was said, "What will our families do if we go through with getting a divorce? It will be like tearing one family in two. What will happen with our family?" It was like the whole thing happened again. He punched me in the gut again. And I remember, because it was like I was angry. I was angry, but I was so upset. Because here, this man, he made me have a baby. He made me have a baby. He made me bring life into this earth to destroy that life. And I remember jumping in the car with the book and going to my mother-in-law's, walking in the house, and he was like, "Hi, how you doing? What are you doing here?" And I didn't say anything to my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law was like, "Hi, how are you?" She gave me a kiss on both cheeks. And all I did is I said, "Oh, I just came to see how you guys were doing." And since he was here, but I had the book behind my back. And as I turned so he could see the book. So he could see it in my hand. So he could feel the fact that I knew what he kept secret. Carla, are there any questions anybody has for me?
We are all sitting on pins and needles. The comments that are coming through are basically, the viewers are congratulating you on your strength. A few of them said that they wish that they could give you a hug. to tell you
to
that
tell you
one day
that
all
one
of this
day
will
all
be
of this will
okay.
be okay.
Um,
Um,
a couple
a
are
couple
saying
are
that
saying that
when he saw
when
the
he
book
saw the
in
book
your
in
hand,
your hand,
what happened?
what happened?
Like we're sitting
Like
on
we're sitting
pins
on
and
pins
needles.
and needles.
When he saw the book in my hand, it was like the look of fear and rage. It was, he was afraid. He was ashamed, but he was angry. I tell you, I ended up taking the baby and saying, you know what, I'm going to drive home with the baby, and and don't worry about it, don't worry. And I drove home with the baby. And as I best as I can recall, but he ended up leaving before I did. He was like, well, I suppose maybe he said, well, you know what, since you're here, you know what, you take the baby or something like that. I don't know. When I got home and I pulled in the driveway, and I probably should have not. No, what happened, I didn't pull right away in the driveway. I went to the church because it was a Wednesday night or a Friday night. My church had Wednesday night service and Friday night service and Sunday. And it wasn't the Sunday, it was in the week. So it was either a Wednesday night or a Friday night. And I stayed for the service because I didn't want to go home. And I shared with the pastor, and I cried. And my cousin that had told me, once a cheater, always a cheater, she held me and she said, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know, because I've got my child now, my son. I mean, if you think a dad is important to a little girl, a dad is so important to a little boy. And I mean, in my family, there are lots of women that are in my family. So having that nurturing, a little girl, like my little girl, she was a princess, but a little boy, he'd want to gravitate to his daddy. But his daddy was an adulterer. And how can a little child look up to an adulterer without someone being there to show him the right way?
I have
So
some
I was
questions.
trapped.
I have a few
I have
comments
a
and
few comments
questions.
and questions.
So
So,
Miss
Miss
Anne
Ann
wants to know,
wants to
what is
know,
the status of
what
your
is the status
ex-husband
of
now,
your
and
ex-husband
is
now?
he
And is
married
he married
or whatever?
or
Is
whatever?
he
That
married
is
or whatever?
married or whatever.
He is married. He We actually got divorced 2.5 years ago. This actually next month will be 3 years ago we got divorced. So I've got a lot of story between, because my son that I had was 23 this year. So think about it. It's a long time. Um, he has remarried somebody else. She actually was an affair, but I finally put my foot down and I said I couldn't do it anymore. I did as much as I could do.
Some of the folks
Some
want
of
to
the folks
know
want to
what type
know
of
what type
relationship
of relationship
your son
your
had
son
with his
had with
father.
his father.
Unfortunately, because of all the lies, all the deception, all of the wrongdoing, and my uncle calls it wrong and strong, Jamaican phrase, wrong and strong. My ex-husband is wrong and strong, so he sees himself as the victim. He is a narcissist, and so he sees himself as being wronged by me, by the children, mainly by me in every sense of the word. So my son he's tried many times to have a relationship with his father, but his father only can have a relationship if the relationship has some value to him. Does that make sense? If he's getting something out of it,
But
he has a relationship.
something out of the fact
Out of the fact that
he's fathering his son?
fathering his
Isn't that
son,
enough?
is that
Should
enough?
that be enough?
No, that's not enough. That's not enough. It's not enough. A person like that, fathering isn't enough, because when you father, you give. You're giving. You're giving to the next generation. He always wants to get. If he's giving, he's getting somehow, some way, in some kind of way. So we don't really look upon these days in the same light, because he is no longer connected to me. He has fed off of me, and I've put my foot down, and so he's moved on to the next person.
Paul wants
to know
how many
how many children
did you have
did
by
you
your
have by
ex-husband?
your ex-husband?
And
How many
does he have
have
outside
outside
your
your now
ex relationship?
Right, relationship, marriage, whatever. I had one daughter that I came into the relationship with, and I had 2 children with him, a daughter and a son. Those are the only children that he has in this world,
Okay.
and neither of them have a relationship with him.
Paul also wants to know, do you have any form of communication with him? And if so, are you guys cordial with each other currently since he's remarried?
I do not have any communication with him. I am probably the perfect ex-wife. I will only contact him if there is a major need, such as if one of the children are ill, if they broke their leg, if they're something that I could not handle by myself. I contact him for. Because they're older and now they're adults, they want their privacy. So let's just say, in scenario, if one of them were in the hospital right now, I have a son that's 23 years old and I have a daughter that's about to turn 20. They probably would not want me to contact him. to respect their privacy. And I would be in the middle, because then he would be upset with me because I didn't show him the respect to let him know that they were in the hospital. So it's I keep away from the relationship, and I do not have any contact with him because of the fact of the contentiousness, because for him, he takes advantage of anything. If I give him a centimeter or a millimeter, he is in there and he is trying to cause some kind of drama or chaos or something.
Unbelievable. We have a few of the viewers who want contact information. Karen, can you give the viewers your contact information?
Sure, absolutely. It is Karen, spelled Karen, and the initial is A, and then V as in Victor, AL 69 at yahoo.com.
Thank you. There's tons of
Yes.
comments coming in. It looks
You want to do some shout outs to anybody?
ton of communication is rolling in. I have a shout out from Jamaica actually. Big up to everybody.
Big up, bra. Sorry.
To everybody in Jamaica, West Indies. It looks like Josh Sun. This is the name on the comment.
Jason?
Yeah, Josh.
Wagwan.
Wanted me to tell you that to never let anyone put the burning in your candle. That's what it says. Or
Thank you.
never allow your burn. It's right.
Right. Well, you know, the devil himself tried to extinguish me so many times. The devil himself tried to extinguish me so many times and smashed me, destroyed me. But you know, every single time there was one little piece that God kept.
Thank God.
And that one little piece that was together, somehow I was able to stand back up and keep on going, keep on rolling with the punches. You know, I could go through every single episode that would keep you guys on the edge of your seat, because this person did not just have one scenario of how they abused the relationship. They had many ways. They did many things. They became smarter, like a drug dealer or a cat burglar. You know, you're going to learn the tools of the trade, then you're going to hone in on your trade. And so I had to get smarter, and I had to get better.
You had to beat him at the punch.
I had to beat him at the punch. I had to beat him I had to know before he knew. I used to call it, I can smell your shit from 2 miles from here. I can smell it before he even entertained a woman. I knew it was coming. It's just I didn't know where. I didn't know when. I didn't know who. I didn't know what.
There's a Riri.
And I know it's...
I'm sorry. Riri from Trinidad wants to know if you have a women's support group, and if so, how would one become a part of that?
I do not have a women's support group, but I would definitely be open to discussions, Carla, with you with that. I know we've had like some things back and forth, but yeah, we just Women have to know that these things out there, these people that are out there, because many people ask me, why did I stay? Why'd I stay? Why'd you stay? Why'd you stay? Why'd you stay? At first, in the first installment, I stayed out of pride. I was like, I just got married. We spent all that money.
Yeah, because you had a fabulous.
We just got married.
You had a fabulous wedding.
I'm talking all this stuff about you, and you're gonna do that to me? To me? Like, you have some balls. You're gonna do that to me.
Yeah.
You should be kissing my feet. And you know what? I'm a badass. That was exactly the way I felt. I felt like I'm a badass bitch and I'm gonna get my man back. Like, fuck all of y'all. I'm sorry, but that was the way I felt. Once I had my child, then it was like the little girl in me said, you can't do that to him. You can't do that to him. He's going to need his daddy. And by the time I had a second child, you know, and the crazy thing about the second child, he actually accused me of getting pregnant on purpose to keep him, which is, anybody that knows me knows that, number one, I really never liked being pregnant anyway. Number two, the fact of me, I already had a child out of a marriage. So I'm not a type of person that's going to try and hook a man with a baby. But he had the nerve to say that to me.
But if you
I would never forget it.
Married.
Yeah, we were married. Yeah, we were married. But you know what, though? It was during that time period with that woman who was his friend, who was his ex-girlfriend from Portugal. And he was like so in love with her, and she was and also the fact of most of the women he had affairs with were already married. So he was creating problems in other people's marriages too. Yeah, he was just like, how dare you? How dare you think that's how deluded he became. That's how deluded this person became, that he thought he was the shit. The fact of I would get pregnant for him to hold him.
More comments are coming in.
Sure.
Some of the viewers want to know if you are currently in a relationship.
I am not in a relationship currently. I really felt very strongly. I had a 5-year divorce process from the moment that I kicked him out of the house. Actually, myself and my son made him leave. Because with the last person, he took his son to dinner and he did a selfie, and our son saw the picture of him with the other woman. Yeah, I know. It gives you another layer of disgust. And at that point, our son, who at the time was 17 years old, he was like, do not have me go anywhere with this man ever again. I do not want to go anywhere with him. And I realized, okay, I can't keep this secret anymore. The secret's out, guys. They know. And in fact, they knew. The kids knew. They knew. But I was doing it for them. I was staying in there for them. And I was staying in there kind of, sort of for him too. Because I saw the fact of maybe one day he could change. Maybe he would get old enough and decrepit enough that he'd be the father and the grandfather sitting on the rocking chair, talking about being the perfect husband, and just, he was just too old to do anything. And he was just happy with his life because we had a good life. We had things, God had blessed us tremendously. God had blessed us in our business. God blessed me in my career. God blessed us so many places. But after a while, the blessings started to dwindle down because God was not going to make this keep just happening. So every time he had an affair, we lost something. Whether it was a car, whether it was maybe it was a car accident, maybe it was some business contract, maybe it was something. There was always something being lost. Co-workers, employees, partnerships. There was always something being lost, and it was being degraded. So when I got out of the relationship, I really felt that it was time for me to focus on my children first, because at the time my daughter was 14 and my son, I think 14 or 15, no, 14, and my son was 17. And they had never known a home environment where there was love, there was peace, there was assurances and stability, because they grew up in a household that was just every few years there was adultery. And that does a lot to children. So I had people that were interested in dating me, and I dated a couple people, but I also left room for him to find his way back to our family. I gave him every chance. I gave you every chance. Every chance. If he's seeing this, you know it and I know it. And as God is my witness, I gave you every single chance to be the man that I believed you could be, the father you could be, the king you could be. But you weren't a king. You were a peasant dressed up as a king. So I'm looking for my king. I look at it that people that aren't kings need not apply, because I've walked this life, I've walked on this earth far too long, far too far. I've gone through far too much to sacrifice myself on somebody else's altar.
I'm really at a loss for words. I am at a loss for words. We have tons and tons of comments that are rolling in. People said that basically they'll be reaching out to you. They're interested in some type of maybe you speak at a women support, but there's so much information that's rolling in here. I can't keep up.
Yeah, I know.
Leave your personal information again so people can reach out to you.
Sure. My email is Karen, spelled Karen, and the next initial is A, and then VAL. So it's V as in Victor, A as in Apple, L as in Linda, 69 at yahoo.com.
Thank
I
you.
really should put like a little plate right here with my email address and just hold it like
That would be
like a
very
convict.
You can also send me an email.
Yes.
And if you want to send me an email, I can forward it to Karen, or whatever is most comfortable for you. My email address is I'm my in life sisters SISTAS keeper KEEPER the number 2 at gmail.com. Listen, we're gonna wrap up this segment. We'll have Miss Karen back on for episode 3. We
Yeah.
thank you so much, Karen, for your time.
Oh, thank
But
you.
parting words, as we wrap up this segment, what are your parting words for this evening?
My parting words are, if anybody's out there that is going through what I've been through, I tell you to stay strong. I'll tell you to keep your faith, keep your hope. I said this to a friend of mine earlier this week, and I really am living this every day, and I'll share it with you. Every morning, God gives us an uncut diamond. As the sun rises, that uncut diamond rises. And all through the day, God is busy cutting the diamond. I don't know if you've seen a diamond cutter, how they cut the facets, they polish it, they shine it, it takes time. And at the end of the day, when the sun sets, God presents that diamond to us.
That's beautiful. Do you remember that
Use.
we used to hang out in the diamond district?
I was just thinking about the diamond. As soon as you said, remember when? I was like, yep.
We used to hang out in the diamond district in New York City and would go in and pick stones for earrings
Yes.
and necklaces.
Remember Joy? Remember Joy,
Yeah.
she had her girlfriend in the diamond district? Yes. So God gives that to each and every one of us. And if you are going through what I have been through, you're not focusing on that diamond. For over 20 years, I never focused on the daily diamond I was given. I was focusing on everything else. And I would say to you as just to focus on the diamond, take each day one step at a time. It will all work out. It will all work out one way or another. I'm not here to tell you to divorce your man or divorce your wife. You only have to find that from within yourself. Find that in yourself, that place. I can say for myself, I did everything humanly possible. And I know that I can sleep at night because I can look my children in the eye and I can tell them, I gave your father as much of a chance as I could as a human being, just as a human being. And that is such a healing thing to say to a child. I gave it my all and it wasn't enough. And really mean it in my heart before God. So that's what I would say.
We appreciate those closing words. Family, we're going to have Miss Karen back on to complete the end of this 3-part episode that she has lovingly came to share on the podcast. My sisters, thank you so much, Karen. Thank you. We hope
Thank you,
you have
sweetie.
a fantastic night, and we will see you soon. Love you.
Love you too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, y'all.